Let us continue with our lesson, and the next step would be to enable a data binding. So we'll be using a data binding. So for that, let us enable the data binding in our Gradle build. So let's go to the Gradle script over here and go to the build.gradle for the module app. Let's go over here, and on the top over here, let me enable a data binding. So we can just say a data binding, and inside the data binding I can just say enabled, enabled equals to true. So now we can say that data binding is enabled. So it just says that there is a Capat plugin that we Kotlin Capat plugin that we need to add, and we can just go to, or else later we can add, or we can add it now. So if we see, we can just make use of that one, or say apply, right? Apply plugin. The plugin that we want to use is kotlin.apt, right? So if you see, that should be Kotlin KAPT. So KAPT Kotlin, so that the error is gone, and synchronize it now. So we have added this plugin, and it's the Kotlin Capat or KAPT, something what you call, I think it's a Kotlin KAPT plugin. So you may be wondering why we need to add this one whenever we are enabling a data binding. So basically, the Kotlin KAPT plugin help us to, this is a library that will help us to make use of a data binding as well as a dragger. So if you go and check their documentation, you will find that Kotlin KAPT plugin, this library will help to make use of a data binding as well as a dragger in our Kotlin project. So this is for especially for a Kotlin support for a data binding. So I hope you guys got it. So once we enable this one, what we can do is we can go back to our custom task list view over here, and let's go to over here in the text view, and on the top I can say that we need to enable a layout, and inside this layout we have to move it. So let me just cut this one and paste it inside this one, and now I can just cut this section and paste it inside this one. So we have a data binding added over here, and if you go to the design layout, we have added a layout on top, and inside that we have a constant layout. So let's go to the text view again, and after we have a layout, the next thing that we have to bind the data. So how do we bind the data? For this one is we can make use of a data tag over here, and inside this data tag we have to create a variable tag, and the variable name we can give any name. So this is for task, so I can just say this is a task, and the type, so what type of data is going to hold. So the type of data is going to hold is, if you go to the remote section and go to the response in to do, we have a app task response. So this data is actually going to be hold like for a body, and we have a title and status. So this data will be held by this data binding, sorry, over here. So we need to get that one. So I can just say as a task response. So this is the data that we are going to hold. So now we have added the data and a variable of a task, and now we can make use of this task inside our view. So we can bind a view with our data. So this is our data section, and now we have a view of a text view which can be bind to our variable over here, tags. So we can go to our text over here, and in the text section what we can do is, instead of this one, I can just say we can make use of a at sign, adverb, and opening and closing of curly brace, and inside this curly brace, opening and closing curly brace, I can say a tax. Tax is coming from here, so this is a variable name that we are making use over here. Tax dot it should be of this is a title, so tax dot title, right? So we get a tax dot title over here. And the second, we have a body, so body we can just bind it with add, and this should be of opening and closing curly brace. Inside this we can make use of our tax variable dot body, so we get a body. And also for the status we can just say add and opening and curly brace, and inside this I can just say tax dot the status, right? So we have a status. And if you go to the design layout, so we don't have any data for now, but that should be fine. We have binded it, so we have make use of data and the variable. And if we go to this section, and the tax variable, data variable we have created is tax. That's why we can make use of this tax, and when we have that variable we have access to the tax responder, and inside this we have created a variable for body, and we have a lot of variables, so we can make use of that inside this. So this is the power of the data binding. So we have binded our data over here, and that should be fine. So we'll continue with our lesson, and I hope you guys got it. How do we bind a data using a data binding? So first we have to enable it in our Gradle build, which we say as a data binding enable. Then we just have to add this Kotlin KAPT plugin, which will help us to make use of a data binding in Kotlin. And after that we have to just add a layout section on the top, and inside this layout section we have to add all of our views, and then we can make use of a data section. Inside this data we can create a variable name, and through that variable name we can access the properties. So that's all for this lesson. We'll continue with our lesson in the next video. Till then, have a great day.